It's still a good 2-3 days away from.
If you look at the latest particular
about like this, and you can see a couple things. The motion of the storm definitely is toward the west and now toward the northwest, so it may be beginning a turn to that northerly direction that we were talking about before. Now we're going to back it up and show you with the colorized version. Now remember, the reds are the most intense, and watch right around the eye here, a very well-defined storm. The last 4 or 5 pictures really show the storm beginning to turn a little bit to the northwest, and that's good news. Now, as far as the rest of
space, about 23,000 miles, looking down at it, you would see the hurricane. There's the eye, a well-developed eye as it moves off to the west-northwest. A very, very beautiful shot of a very nasty hurricane indeed. Further off to the Atlantic Ocean.
Watch as it begins here. There's the eye of the storm. It's going this way. Now left. Whoop, see that turn? See how it's moved a little bit to the north? Now, it is not guaranteed it will continue doing that, but it's likely right now, if it continues that motion for about the next 12 to 24 hours, that it will eventually turn out that way and miss everybody. And boy, that's good news.
Off on a northwesterly trek as it makes its way over miles and miles of ocean. We will continue to monitor it and track it, though, as it does so, and pass any new information on to you.
And you can see the counterclockwise spiraling, also see the center. Not very much movement at all throughout today, just a very slight drift toward the north. Now, what we'd like to say is that this delays any onset of very bad weather in Nicaragua and Costa Rica. That is, the hurricane, the way it's shaped up now, will have to get a little bit closer to the coast. And another thing, if this hurricane doesn't make landfall, let's say by Saturday, in Central America, the chances of it coming up into the northern Caribbean or northwest Caribbean are going to increase some. Now let's have a look at that depression out there. And
over the Caribbean, beginning to make a very slow drift to the west. Now expect 10 to 15-inch rainfalls into Central America. We also,
as it drifts off slowly to the west at about 5 miles per hour, and some places indeed could get 15 to 20 inches of rain along with those strong winds if it doesn't make landfall by tomorrow. We'll be monitoring this storm very, very carefully. Let's find out what's happening over the rest of the Caribbean.
And as it first appears, now you can see that movement very steadily toward the west. And we don't think we're going to see much change in the next 12 or 14 hours. And that means that the eye of this hurricane, the full core of the hurricane, will be coming inland in Nicaragua. Now, in addition to winds up to 110 miles an hour or even stronger than that, we expect about a 7 to 10-foot storm surge and just torrential rains. We might see as much as 15 to 20 inches of rain, so that has the potential for some mudslides and for some flooding as well. Now let's look quickly at our
time. You can see it pretty far off the coast, about 170 miles east of Bluefields in Nicaragua. Watch it. It increases in speed, it increases in intensity, and the rainfall rate increases. The storm surge coming on shore now during the nighttime hours does not help the situation either, as the storm continues with 125-mile-per-hour winds plus a very low barometer too. It's a very powerful hurricane, and it continues to move right across, well, we'll be moving on shore within the next few hours into Nicaragua. Indications now are from the National Hurricane Center it will probably drift right across the entire area and out over into the eastern Pacific Ocean and maintain pretty good strength. It will weaken quite a bit when it hits land, but maintain maybe even tropical storm strength by the time it reaches the other side of land. We'll continue to watch this for you. This is a news item for the next few days, no doubt about that. The rest of the Caribbean, not much going on. All the energy was zapped by this extremely strong hurricane out in the Gulf of Mexico.
Joan, now put it into motion for you, and you'll see that out here the convection, which is that bright white or yellow area, continued to expand as it made its move onshore. That's when the winds were clocked at 135 miles an hour right around that eye. Continues to track to the west at about 10. Further in the Caribbean, we're not watching any action. We see some west.
As the eye was just making landfall near Bluefields, Nicaragua. Then the eye vanishes, the center, the rotation still evident, but the integrity of the storm, the intensity obviously gone as it tracks westward. But again, it's headed for the Pacific. We'll watch it there. Let's take a look right now.
Notice as it goes ashore here back about 18 hours ago, 6 o'clock this morning, over Bluefield in Nicaragua, little fishing community on the Caribbean shoreline. Notice the core of the hurricane, the bright white clouds. That's where the 125-mile-per-hour winds were circulating. But as soon as it hits the land, it just goes to smithereens. The thing just blows up and falls apart, and that is because it is very mountainous down here in Central America. And as soon as it hits,
beginning to gather strength as it begins to influx that warm Pacific moisture. Tremendous thunderstorms around Managua in Nicaragua. Back to the maps we go, and we'll show you the Caribbean. We'll show you that indeed that's the only thing of great.
Here in the last 5 or 6 hours, definitely taking a very hard turn up towards the north, and it's going to come up right through the Yucatan Channel now between Mexico and the western end of Cuba. And also take a look here, our nice sunny day early this morning. Look what's happened now. These spiral bands from the system are moving up. There's no nasty weather in these bands, no rain or anything. However, we're getting the clouds, and we're going to be in the clouds for at least 2 or 3 days. Let's go with our radar and just check and see if there is anything out there. We've got
continuing moving north and then possibly recurving to the northeast. We'll update you more specifically on Tropical Storm Keith coming up at 52 minutes past the hour. Very nice over the central part of the country and the west, although we do have a new system moving into the Pacific Northwest, so rain and or snow will be the result there. Let's go ahead and show you the temperatures.
Kind of hidden. We'll put the satellite in motion. You can see for yourself what has happened. The first half of the loop, not much goes on, but all of a sudden, vroom, boy, you see that? It's starting to move to the north. If we do that one more time, you can watch the whole thing go here, starting at 4 this morning, starting to move to the north. Now watch the last few numbers. It really starts to take off to the northeast, and what's happening is the jet stream is up here and really starting to move the thing. Now we're going to enhance the color for you. Color the highest cloud tops with the infrared satellite so it shows where the heaviest convection is occurring, and this yellow and orange areas are the big thunderstorms. You can see the movement a little more clearly, and this kind of circular motion. So the center is right about there. It appears to be almost on a latitude line equal with Key West right now. And this thing here is a little feeder band we'll look at in a second. But the jet stream is really strong. There's 60, 70, 80-mile-an-hour winds up here blowing from west to east, and that's taken the whole thing and what's called shearing it off. And if that shearing continues, it's probably just going to tear the storm apart. So if there's anything left of it by the time it makes the turn and hits somewhere in the west central Florida coast tomorrow, it may not amount to much. Now there's only one other possibility, and that's the shearing would take place and the low-level circulation would still remain and reform somewhere to the east of the center. Then it has a chance of getting a little bit farther south, but I still think we're pretty good. See this little line right here? Go to the radar. We'll show you what that looks like. Here's the loop going back to earlier today. Let's go back.
Roll the clouds into motion for you, and you can see Keith moving towards the north, and now it's beginning to turn more towards the northeast, and it looks like Florida is acting like a magnet, just drawing the storm to it, and it looks like the worst of the weather will be coming into Florida later today and tonight. But take a look at this big glob of heavy thunderstorms, and you can see it's just kind of edging slowly but surely towards Florida. Now, as we show you the latest.
As far to the south where all the convection is, this is what I'm talking about, the storm being torn apart, and it's kind of like taking a scissors and cutting the top, like the winds of the scissors, cutting the tops off the clouds. So that is really not conducive to get any big thunderstorm or convective activity going. Now here you can see what happens. The orange and the yellow and the green are the highest thunderstorm tops. The center of circulation is down here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just kind of a circular area. Okay, that's where the center of circulation is, and it looks like it's going to go shore just about north of Fort Myers.
Into Wildwood Acres and farther up into Gainesville and Ocala. System is offshore. The rain is pushing north.
North, longitude 83.5 to the west. It is moving to the northeast at around 15 to 20 miles an hour, so it's really picking up speed. Winds now 65 miles an hour at the center of the storm, and in the outward 40 to 50 miles an hour. Now, if you just take a look at the tracker, you'll be able to see that this storm is actually moving in quite a bit. At the radar site that we have from
this for at 2:31 this afternoon. Now, all these blue and yellow echoes are light rain. Watch, all of a sudden we start to get some green and reds going through Key West. Another line forms right there about 8 o'clock. See that? Okay, now these are feeder bands going into the center. You can imagine the circulation going into the center of the storm up here. Let's take a quick look at the Tampa radar. They've got an awful lot of rain right here. The center appears to be right about there. Here's our forecast. For the boaters, the wind tomorrow will be
heads northeastward.
And now it's time for
take it on shore, well, probably just north of Sarasota, Bradenton, as it heads northeastward.
And now it's time for
rain, and we've had in some cases over the last hour over an inch of rain around the Orlando area. So we've got some heavy weather with that thing, but it is working its way on shore now around Sarasota, and about 7 o'clock this morning, it should be halfway across the state. So that's good news. And this evening and this afternoon, traveling won't be that bad.
Sprinkles there, that's just about it. And gusty winds in the southern half of the state, gusting occasionally up to about 30 miles an hour, and no more than that. Let's look at another picture, and we'll put this one into motion for you and show you what the motion has been. Now, just as was the case yesterday, all the heavy showers and thunderstorms are pretty well to the north and east of where the center is. Actually, the center of circulation has just come off the coast, but you can see now that all this cloud mass is racing toward the east, away from land. It's not going to affect any more land at all unless in about, say, 36